Good evening, everyone. I'm just so excited to be back with another artist series. We've been gone for a while, but I'm so excited because we have a great guest today. She is a wonderful jazz vocalist, downbeat winner, Ella Fitzgerald finalist, and my little cupcake, Dominique Bianco. Hi, Dominique.
Hi.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad you're here.
Yes, glad to be here.
So, Dominique, you are just doing so many wonderful things, so many great gigs, so many great recording projects that we see online. But I wanna go back a little bit. So tell me, how did you get your start in music?
Yeah, so my dad sings and plays guitar. So I grew up listening to him, and he sings all kinds of genres from soul to funk to American songbook. And I just get a lot of my musicianship from him and grew up listening to him. Definitely inspired by musical theater. Like I went to a performing arts high school and then really got into American Songbook, but I didn't know that you could turn them into arrangements. So when I went to George Mason, I realized that you could do that and sort of made a career out of it because before I didn't know you could do that, but as soon as I realized you could, I was like, this is really cool.
Wow, that's great, Dominique. So I know that you're from New York, and New York is like music capital, music city.
Yeah.
So how would you say being from New York and also visiting New York, how has that affected your music making?
Yeah, there's definitely a high level of playing that's going on in New York. I think it's always been that way. And it's really inspiring, but I think for me, it's really good in small doses at this point in my career, just to get a taste for it and then come back to the countryside and to start really practicing and learning from my experiences in small ways is really refreshing. It's a good balance for just my mental health and just in general, just staying the course, and overall just trying to save some money. Like I obviously can't move all the way out to New York at the moment, but I think once my residency at Strathmore is over, I'll probably be moving back. I remember when I was in the city for high school for 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year of high school. It honestly, I would compare it, like the way I would explain it to people, the way that I felt was like everybody had their own personality bubbles that were like really big. So it was hard for you to kind of create your own and figure out like who you were as an artist or as a person even. And I think until I moved to Virginia, I didn't know what kind of music I wanted to do or what kind of person I was or how I wanted to make other people feel through music or just in general in life. So once I had the space to sort of figure that out, that was really refreshing. And I think balance is important for me.
Wow, that's some great advice, Dominique, about finding your own. It is about finding your own niche. When you talked about your Strathmore residency, we're going to talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
But let's talk about college. Let's talk about George Mason. So you talked about how you didn't know you could make a career out of music and making arrangements. So what are some other characteristics that you gained from music school?
Well, there were a lot of times where I was maybe thrown into the deep end, not knowing a tune, not knowing the key of the tune, and just being told to solo, just being told to say something. So I definitely learned how to land on my feet eventually. Also learned that arriving on time is very important. I learned how to dress appropriately for performances. And I think it just was a good, like, I feel like Dr. Purcell definitely guided me in a certain direction. And, as well as other mentors that I've gained, like Wade Beach has, he allowed me to be able to accompany myself on the piano. And he was like one of the very first instrumentalists that I really looked up to that told me like, Dominique, you're killing, like you're doing all this great stuff. Keep going. And then Victor Provost was another one of those mentors that just kind of told me like, just stay consistent. He still tells me, like just keep going. And I think music school has allowed me to appreciate like good mentorship and appreciate collaborating with like-minded musicians, because being surrounded by people who are not only good musicians but good people is really, really important to me.
Wow, Dominique, that is so great. Mentorship, arriving on time, knowing what keys your songs are in. Those are all great. Why are you laughing? Those are great things.
It is good. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think sometimes singers just think, "Oh, I want to sing," and they overlook these really small things, but really important in the scheme of working and having gigs.
Right.
So thinking about music school and moving past music school, you're very active in the local music scene in DC and Northern Virginia. How did you start that journey?
So it was actually during the pandemic, which is really weird. Pretty much everybody was not playing, and for some reason, Elijah Jamal Ballbed was. He was playing outside of a really tiny restaurant in DC, and he DM'd me one day and was like, he saw one of my videos. I was posting a lot during COVID, so people were checking out my stuff online, and so he was like, "Oh, you're in the area. Like, why don't you come out to one of my gigs and sing?" It's definitely one of the first opportunities that I had gotten up to that point that was outside of school. Um, and once I started doing that, I just kept going to sessions, kept going to other people's gigs. During the pandemic, there were small ones, so everyone was really interested in collaborating, not only online but as much as they could in person. And I think that definitely gave me my start, like outside. That was one of the experiences that I definitely remember and won't forget. That's how I started.
Wow,
Um,
that's amazing that you started during the pandemic. This artist series actually started during the pandemic. And when I started, I would always ask musicians, how did music making change for them in the pandemic? So I guess that's one way. But also, you do lots of recordings and videos. How did you start that? And you do photography.
Yeah, so actually, I have always loved YouTube, always, my whole life. I remember I was like 16 and my grandparents bought me a Canon camera, and that's the camera that I use today, like for everything. It's gotten good use out of it so far. It's definitely paid for itself, and basically, like, my grandparents knew I was really interested in filming, photography, YouTube, making videos, but I was always really, really shy. And people would find my videos, like friends, and they would play them and would make fun of me. But now it's like I know how to make these videos, and it's only helped me. It's only been a beneficial thing, to be able to do this stuff. I mean, like, speaking of like videos, like I collaborated with the DC photographer Nick Moreland, and we basically have been creating a music video for the title track of my upcoming EP called I'm All Smiles. It's the first music video I've ever done, but it's still it's in the works. Like, I'm still editing it. It's in the final stages of getting it out, but like, I've always loved video editing. I used to do some video editing for Dr. Purcell. I've always just loved that.
Well, that's so important today, especially with social media and just artists being well-rounded and being able to market themselves. So Dominique, you mentioned All Smiles. So talk about your creative process, your originals, who's on the album, what songs are on the album.
Yeah, so I mean, I have like a CD here.
Oh, wow, you're ready.
Oh yeah, I came prepared. So that's what the record looks like. Um, all the photography is by Nick Moreland, um, and it's 4 standards and then a tune by Jobim, and they are all tunes that mean a lot to me. Getting to collaborate with featured guests like Benny Benack and Elijah have really, I mean, they've been really influential on my career and just overall on my playing. So it was really great to have them on a record, especially my first one. And yeah, the whole process of it has really shown me how little I know about what goes on behind the scenes of being a jazz artist. I think that I still have a lot to learn. Copyrights. I had this whole thing with the ISRC codes, like stuff that people with teams and labels, they don't have to, artists, they don't, when they have a team and a label, they don't have to think about any of that. Somebody's taking care of it for them. But like when you're in a pickle, like the only thing you can do is ask your mentors or ask, like-minded musicians that have gone through this process. Flute player Alex Hamburger has helped me a whole bunch with this record, and I don't think I would be getting it out in time if it wasn't for her. So yeah, but yeah, I honestly, that's what I want to do for the rest of my career is create records, because I check out so many great records and it makes me feel like I've found gold, and I want to do that for other people.
Oh, wow, that's great. I know you're going to do that, Dominique. I can't wait to hear it. So what's one of your favorite albums that gave you that feeling?
There's a bunch. Um, I love Ella live at Sardi's. That's always everything on there is like gold. Like it's disgusting, and it's all live. Like it's just the arrangements, the way she's just talking with the audience and joking with them, and she's just taking requests of tunes she doesn't even like. She barely knows. She's like only heard. She doesn't even know the lyrics. Like people are in the crowd like telling her the lyrics. I think that's like the greatest. She's able to like jump in the deep end and like more than just swim. Like she can really soar, and I think that album has recently been like I go back to it every once in a while.
I love that album too. And I love whenever Ella doesn't know the words and she says, like, I don't know the words to this song, but
It's personable. Like she's just so genuine.
and she's from Virginia.
She is, yeah.
Yeah, so you talked about the studio and things you didn't know. So what was something that may have surprised you about that process?
How long it takes to record stuff, how long it takes to mix. Mastering was the quickest for me. Mike Pope, bass player, did my mastering on my record, and he was very diligent. We just went through each tune, and it was like maybe 2 hours tops. But the recording took like I don't know, I don't remember, but like it was a year ago when we recorded this record.
And what was your recording method? Were you an early morning recorder? Were you a late evening recorder?
We were like at 12:30, 12 o'clock recorder. So kind of early, didn't want to be too late because, you want to have energy to give it your all, but you want enough time to sleep in and really get a good morning. The mixing was really Thomas Tyra and Bob Dawson did the mixing on this record, and Thomas Tyra is like an assistant, but also like an engineer at Bias Studios. He actually went to Mason, and we actually took classes, or we didn't take classes together, but there was like an after hours at Mason for the technology students, which I started out as a technology student, as a music technology major, and he was always in the like computer lounge or whatever, and we would always just talk about music or just would hang out, and it was just kind of funny how this just happened. Like I just realized like, oh, this guy's working at Bias and he's really really good and like knows what's up. So we collaborated a lot on certain sounds that I liked, certain records that I wanted to compare it to, like Veronica Swift or Samara Joy, and was like, I like the way that these sound, kind of want to get this vibe, and we worked well together.
Wow, that's incredible. I think that's another thing that people miss about going to music school. You kind of have a network of people that you can call on for things, instrumentalists, engineers. So that's another really great thing about music school. So thinking about the EP, what is a song that you're very excited for people to hear?
Well, they're all really cool. Obviously, the music video is gonna be cool to "I'm All Smiles," but I have to say, like, it's been a year since I recorded it, so it doesn't sound completely like me. It doesn't sound like I don't know if I would sing a lot of these tunes the same way anymore. But it's a nice timestamp to have. But the one tune that has just stayed kind of consistent every time I hear it, I'm like, yeah, I still like that, and I still feel like I kind of sound that way, is Janine, which is the last and final track on the record. And it just, for some reason, the solo I take is everything I wanted it to be, and I'm very proud of it. And the the arrangement was done by Elijah Jamal Balbed, and he did an amazing job arranging for two horns, and like I couldn't have asked for a better like take of that.
Wow, that's exciting. So you talked about some influences for the album, but what are just some overall musical influences for you?
Yeah, so many, so too many. We could sit here all day talking about them. But so like if we're talking like older people, I'd say like Ella, Mel Torme, Sarah Vaughan, George Shearing, Vincent Hearing is like now. Or like if we're talking about like modern artists, I'd say Cecile McLaurin, Savant, Veronica Swift, Samara Joy, Jasmine Horn. And then if we were talking about like just random, like the Beatles, I've always loved the Beatles, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and Yeba has just been like, ooh, she's just been driving me crazy recently. She's just so good.
I like the way you said that. She's just
She is. She's like, so I just recently bought like an effects box that does like harmonies and loops and stuff, and she really inspired me because she's like doing all the pedals and all this stuff, and people are loving it, and I love it, and I've always really liked Yeba, and I think she just has like her songwriting is amazing. I think she has like her own genre, you know, at this like she has like little nuances that she does, and I really like that in an artist when they have like their own sound.
yeah, I really like Yeba too, and it's funny because she went to music school and she dropped out.
I feel like a lot of great artists drop out of school. Like Julius Rodriguez, I think was going to Juilliard and dropped out. And
Yeah,
he's
she didn't
amazing.
she didn't make any of the combos or ensembles or anything. And it's like,
She said, "Peace out. I'm gonna go tour with John Mayer now."
yeah, that's true. So let's get into some of these compliments, Dominique. So tell me about being a finalist in the Ella Fitzgerald competition.
Yeah. It's obviously to be included in something that is under Ella's name is a big honor. Like she's by far my favorite singer. And I grew up listening to her. She reminds me of home. People, when they give me compliments, that is one of the compliments that I get pretty frequently is like, you sound like Ella. And that is the best, like that's the biggest compliment I could ever get. And yeah, I worked really, really hard for it, and for it to be like during my senior year felt like kind of like a nice way to say like, yeah, you're doing good. You're doing the right stuff. So
What was the process like?
so you had to submit. So basically what they give you a couple charts. They pick a theme, and so those charts have to do with the theme, and then you have to learn them, record them, send them in. They pick finalists, I think, blindly, and then what they do is they have either I think they're switching back to in-person competition now, but I was doing, I guess, the online version of the competition, which honestly was a lot harder for me because I mean, even though I do a lot of recording at home and a lot of recordings in general, when it came to something I was really nervous about, I think under pressure, my love for the music didn't come through the camera as much as it would have in like a live situation. And I think my nerves really showed on camera because I just was not smiling as much as I would be for a crowd, or, you know, you don't get that connection with the audience. And I think if I was in an in-person competition, I would have been in my element more. I think I definitely perform now more than I record. But the process was cool. Harry Snippers, Blues Alley just recently went through a really horrible experience. Like I think the roof caught on fire last night, which is terrible, absolutely, you know, devastating. But they say that it's like a certain places are over exaggerating the amount of damage that happened, and they say that they're going to be back and up and running in the next couple weeks, which is great. But you know, being included in something that has to do with Blues Alley or just with Harry in general, Dr. Purcell, you know, can't go wrong.
Well, Dominique, that's great. That's great. And it's so true about the virtual thing. Sometimes it's hard to kind of forge that human connection, but I'm sure you did great. I'm sure it was wonderful.
It was fun. It was a good experience. And now I have those videos to just have and to look back on and be like, yeah, I was in the Ella competition. That's dope.
It's amazing. It's great. Also, prayers for Blues Alley. They hold jazz education, live jazz music. They've been through a lot with the pandemic, but they're still going and they'll be back. So, Dominique, tell me about your Downbeat Award.
Yeah. I actually haven't received it yet. I just emailed the woman who like hands out the certificates. I was supposed to get it like a long time ago, but I just didn't. I thought they were just taking extra long on sending it, but turns out I think they just didn't send it. But I emailed them and they're sending me 2 copies. So I'll be able to finally frame it, finally have it. Basically I won it was vocal jazz performance outstanding. Oh no, vocal, it was like under vocal voice, jazz voice soloist, outstanding jazz performance, something like that. And I mean, I had been submitting for 3 years, and I think a lot of students, vocal students that go through Mason also submit for that award like every year as long as they know about it. You know, I don't think I knew about it my freshman year, but at my sophomore and junior year, I definitely submitted. And you know, not getting it both those times, I was kind of like, it's like a shot in the dark now. And I think my senior year, I submitted my Filthy McNasty recording, which everyone seems to really, really like. And it has a vocalese that I wrote myself. And then I also submitted a little bit of Janine. That's from a live recording with Wade Beach at Blue House Productions. And I submitted some other like ballad, I think a ballad and then like a Portuguese tune and like a little mishmash of all of that. And I think, you know, they gave me some good critiques, which is, you know, always super helpful. They were complimenting my groove, saying my pitch was really great. And, you know, I wasn't expecting to get something like that. And when I did, I mean, I cried. Like Dr. P, actually, I thought I was getting in trouble. Because Dr. P texted me. She goes, come to my office. And it was like 10 in the morning. So I'm like, oh, what did I do now? What did I do? It was like, I was on time to that rehearsal. Like, I don't know. So we go to her office and she's like, sit down. And I'm like, I'm sweating. And she goes, you want a Downbeat Award? I literally just fell. Like I just started crying because I think at that point in my senior year, I didn't really feel like maybe this was something I wanted to do anymore, or this was just something that I didn't feel like a lot of people were encouraging me. And I felt like a lot of people that surrounded me were either just jealous or were just saying like, she's not that good, or, you know, things like that, like putting me down. And then that was just kind of like a really good way to end a senior year. And like, it just was very validating of the work that I had done and to just keep going.
That's really wow, Dominique. That's a great end to a senior year. You know, we don't worry about people. You know, we let our haters be our motivators. You know,
Exactly.
But you talked about writing a vocalese, and you talked about these arrangements. So, give me the rundown of the creative process. How do you go about these vocaleses? How do you go about some of your live arrangements? Also, something I've been noticing.
You like that?
I do like them, but you also have some original compositions that I've been seeing. So
Yes.
tell me about all three of those. All three of them.
Okay, so as far as like arrangements go, I really didn't get into arranging until maybe my junior year of college. And I mean, even now, I always find it hard to come up with something that's completely original, you know, for an arrangement. And I think that whenever I really like something, like even if it's the tiniest little riff or the tiniest little rhythm, I have to start just leaning into it more and really focusing on it. I think it's really easy for people to just be like, oh, I like this, whatever. And I did that for, I think, probably my freshman and sophomore year. I didn't really like take the time to like say, oh, I really like this one thing. Let me expand upon it. And then once there was this one time I was in the car and I was listening to my favorite tune, Lullaby Birdland. The next tune that came on was Everybody Wants to Be a Cat, which is kind of funny. Birds and cats, whatever. And, like I've told this story like a million times. So that's but yeah, so like when they're both minor tunes, and I think they were in similar keys, and I immediately heard them over each other. And I was like, that would be a cool concept. I really like that. And one of them is my favorite tune. So I was like, let me expand upon that. And that's still to date one of my favorite arrangements that I've done. hoping to record it sometime soon and get it out, because it's just like, I love George Shearing. And yeah, so yeah.
And it's good. I've heard it live. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
So it wasn't even that. Yeah. But yeah, so as far as like original music, I had struggled for a while putting out original music and really judging myself and not really knowing if my stuff was good enough, or all these thoughts that you just have as an artist. And then recently I just was like, if people don't like it, it's whatever. Like, I like it. So, and actually my Blues Alley gig in July, this past July, when it was the first time I headlined Blues Alley, I did 2 original tunes that night, and every single person that left passing me on the way out said that the original tunes were their favorite of the night. And that was really, really validating, like just really like made me want to go home and write some more. So then I did, and I wrote another tune. And they're all inspired by different emotions and different scenarios and different things. There was one tune that I did put out like while I was in college for a tiny desk, because I really wanted to submit. It's like they say, don't miss an opportunity, like take every opportunity. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll put out this original. And I didn't think it was that good, but people say even today that recording is like their favorite. So I think a good process is like, if you find something you really like, whether it's like the smallest little thing or if it's like a chord progression, just really expand upon it and like keep digging, keep working at it, because it's so easy to just say you like it and forget it. And I think for me, it's hard to like sit down, and a tune might take months to like kind of accumulate or to kind of process internally, and like for me to understand like the storyline or what it's saying entirely. So I'm still working on a lot of them, changing the chords, changing the intros, changing the outros. I just worked on this original tune, Humming Beneath the Trees. It's kind of like a Latin vibe. And I just recently worked on it with Victor Provost, and he just helped me change like 3 chords that match the melody a lot better than before. So it's a constant process. I think you can always better the stuff you already have.
Wow, it's great, Dominique. Especially, I feel like what you were saying about songwriting is how so many artists feel about it. Like, there's so many great songs. What do I have left to say? But I think our own unique perspectives are what make the songs resonate with people. Because once we hear like someone else sing a song, we're like, oh yeah, I feel exactly like that. And so when you write a song, other people have that same connection and experience with it, Dominique. So tell me about your Strathmore residency. How did that happen?
Yeah, so it's just starting now. So I think we have a concert coming up in November. And that's going to be fun. We're doing professional development every other Monday nights. And it's been really helpful, especially with putting out this record. I've been meeting some great people that work in media and people who work in marketing and people who, know about booking gigs and stuff like that. I've always tried to do that stuff all on my own, not get any help, and just really try to hustle. And I still do that. I don't think I'll ever stop trying to figure out this industry like in that way. But it's just been really helpful to see other people's perspective and experience. Like, these people are in their 40s, 50s, they know what they're doing and they've been around. And it's always great to have people, mentors and people to ask questions like that. The process of auditioning for Strathmore for me was kind of cool. I felt like I felt kind of special. The director of the program is Betty Scott. And the first time I met her, she was like, yeah, I know who you are. And then just kind of like walked away from me. But then later in the night, it was actually after a show that like Victor Provost was on. And I was still at Mason at the time when I went to this concert. And I wanted to introduce myself to her so that she would see my face again when I auditioned and would be like, oh, that's Dominique Bianco. Or so she would check out my stuff or something. It's always good to introduce yourself. And so then I go up to her again, and somebody was introducing me again to her. And I looked down at her hands, she was holding Victor's mallets. And I was like, I looked down at like her hands. I was like, what are you doing with those? And she was like, oh, Victor forgot them. And I was like, funny enough, I take lessons with Victor Provost. I can take those off your hands, like I can take those for you. And it was just a good way to like talk about like the stuff that I do, and that, that I'm an improviser, and that I'm taking lessons on it. And it was a good way to just talk about that stuff and get a nice little in. And then for my audition, I did a mix of an Emily King song, which is a bit more R&B. It's called Distance, and I mixed it with Never Will I Marry. They're both in G. So I did Never Will I Marry as a swing, but it slowly went into that from Distance. It was kind of cool.
Oh, that is very cool. So tell me, for people that don't know, what is the Strathmore?
Strathmore it's a concert hall, but they also have like education, the professional development, and they do a lot of stuff for the community outreach. But yeah, it's like, a concert hall that has a lot of great opportunities. And the AIR class, artist in residence class, is just every year they pick 6 people to, they give you a certain amount of money to create different concerts and put on different concerts and perform. And they give you a lot of opportunities and contacts and a photo shoot and all this stuff. And it's really great. And I've been loving it so far.
Wow, that sounds incredible, Dominique. You have been dropping some jewels. You told us to network with people. You told us about arrangements, charts, being on time. You've given us a lot of good information. But we're gonna go back a little bit. Something that we have in common. So, how did you get involved in the Miss America organization?
I don't know if I've told you this story before, but so the way that I got into it was me and my mom and my grandma. I think my grandma really wanted to go to Costco.
Uh-huh.
Have I told you this?
No.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna like this. So me, my mom, and my grandma, we go to Costco, and we see all these girls in crowns and sashes, and I'm like maybe 10 or 11, and I'm looking around. I'm like, we just wanted to go to the supermarket, we just wanted to buy some groceries. And this one woman comes up to me and she's like, hey, do you want to be my princess? And I'm like, what is going on? And it turns out that person was Mallory Hagan. Wow. Who ended up becoming Miss New York that year and ended up becoming Miss America like that year. And from then on, like I always had like good luck with Miss America. So it was kind of weird. Like I was the teen for Kira Kazantsev, who won Miss America. Like not the next year was Nina, and then the next year was Kira. So it was kind of like a good luck charm of some sort. So
why could you be my good luck charm?
I was thinking about getting into it. I mean, I got a couple years left. Like I'm turning 22 in November. It's definitely crossed my mind, but I don't know if I would have time to balance community outreach, fundraising, doing all of that wonderful stuff, plus building a career in jazz. I think that, there's a lot of similarities, and that's probably why I really like the things that I do, because it's kind of like I'm giving something to the audience and relating to them, connecting with them. And it does feel like very similar to like putting on a walk for a certain, reason. I've always wanted to do like a fundraiser mixed with a gig. And I've done a couple gigs like that were a part of fundraisers for like Make-A-Wish. I was in like a sorority for a while, and their whole like platform was like Make-A-Wish. And that was really awesome. And I love gigs like that.
There are a lot of correlations, and you're saying this, and I'm sure some lovely pageant director will see you saying this and help you make time.
It's so funny. I actually did a couple. I did like the Princess Camp in Orlando, which was cool. Got to like take cool photos, meet people that I still talk to. Very cool experience. And to get to see like the Miss America's Outstanding Teen pageant, like in person, it's a whole production. Super cool. The dresses, the like showroom, the stuff that they just, it's incredible. And then I went back, I think another year for the teens and training program, which like they literally have like all these pageant directors like teaching you different things and how to really set yourself apart from like in the competition. And I started to really develop like my platform and all that. And I think I stopped when I moved to Virginia. But I did it all the way up until I was maybe 14 or 15. But I actually won my first local pageant when I was 12.
Wow.
Which is not like because I think my birthday was like the same week. So they allowed me to compete. And that was like
a teen pageant?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a young teen.
Yeah, you're supposed to be 13. That's like the starting point. And I think I won it when I was 12. So that felt, I my favorite part was the talent portion, of course. Like that was my favorite part. Like just even though it was like a short little clip of a song, I remember I sang like "Don't Rain on My Parade" or something, and that was like, just getting the audience like really roped in was my favorite part, being able to perform.
That is one of my favorite parts of it too, Dominique. And another thing I like about it, I'm not in a sorority or anything or any type of like regional kind of organization. So when you go to different states and different places, it's like no matter where you go, there's always a Miss America organization or a local pageant or somebody that's connected in some way, like a little freshman named Dominique Bianco.
It's so funny because I feel like you knew before I did, because I feel like you like kind of stalked me a little bit on the socials. You were like, who's this little freshman?
I was instructed to no, I'm joking.
I was gonna say. But no, like I feel like you knew like for a while that like I had done this, and you were like, one day you were sitting in the pab and you're like, Dominique, we have a lot in common and you just don't know it. And I was like, what? And then you told me your middle name is Dominique and all this stuff, which is it's great. Yeah, you never know who you're gonna meet that's done, that kind of, I mean, I'm sure you've done like an incredible amount of community service, and that's something, to be really proud of. And it's a good program. Like, yeah.
Thank you, Dominique. I am very proud.
Yeah.
So let's move on to fun facts. So, favorite gig you've ever done?
There's a lot of great gigs, but I definitely loved my Blues Alley gig in July. It's set the standard for me ever since, because just the way that I could connect with the audience that day was just, they were laughing at all my jokes. They were just eating out of the palm of my hand. And that's, I've always wanted to connect with the audience and want them to see my genuine self and make them feel comfortable in their skin. And it felt like they were listening to every word, not just only when I was talking, but when I was singing. And that to me is like, I become a storyteller. I'm not just background music. I become like, this, I'm giving them something and they're receiving it. And it's a balance. And I had never experienced it on that level. So now that's kind of like the standard for me for all the gigs that I do. I just want to keep consistent and make sure that I'm performing at that level. Afterwards, I was selling merch for the first time. I was greeting people as if I was, had been doing this for years. And it just felt like I was really an artist. It felt like I was really a professional, and I was, taken seriously. And most of all, people just enjoyed the show and said that they wanted to hear more. So.
Wow, that's a great one, Dominique. Okay, who is a dream musician or singer, performer that you would love to perform with?
That's so hard. Like alive? Can I pick just alive? I feel like it changes all the time, like who I would pick. But like I've been getting into, well, I've always loved Diane Reeves. Always just loved her. But I gotta think about this. I think Cecile McLaurin-Savant has just, her storytelling is on another level. And she doesn't even have to scat. She doesn't have to even do anything other than just like send the message. And she's my favorite for sure. And I think her, Diane Reeves or Samara Joy, and Samara's just like the sweetest person and extremely talented, and you know.
That's very true. That's very true. You know, Cecile, she sent me a note that says "Happy birthday, Carlia."
I'm dreaming. Like that's
Yeah, she
that
did.
is that is really awesome. No, she seems like a really just really genuine, sweet person. I love all of her like embroidery stuff and stuff like that. Her artwork is great too.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, what is something that you love to splurge on?
Mm. Um, I'd say clothes. I like clothes a lot. I spend a lot of money on clothes, shoes, clothes. It's kind of like a really generic thing to say, but clothes or food or like, you know, like friends, like spending money, like going hanging out with friends or buying things for friends or family, you know, stuff like that, like little trinkets, stuff like I'm like I could keep going. There's so many things.
Okay, okay, this is a random one. Backstreet Boys or NSYNC?
And sync. Took me no time. Justin Timberlake, his spaghetti hair. Mm, that was good.
Well, I kind of like Backstreet's back. All right. Okay.
Bye bye bye. That's like that's
Okay.
mine.
Okay. Justin Timberlake is like a huge star. Okay. Last question. Who's your favorite senior when you were a freshman who was the Mason Jazz intern who also sang right beside you who
Was it
yeah.
Brooke? I don't
You
even
know,
think.
I ask everyone this question that I interview, and you're the only one.
You were just hyping it up so much. I didn't want to give you the satisfaction. But no,
Uh,
yes, it's you. It's you. So it's
okay.
been
Well, Dominique, you gave us a lot. Okay, one more thing. One more
you.
thing. So, you gave us a lot of great advice, a lot of great stories. But what is one piece of advice you would give to a younger person that was hoping to do the same thing that you're doing?
Um, surround yourself with people that support you and your music, or just be alone. Like it's better to be alone than surround yourself with people who are against the things like, you know, the things you want to do, and believe in yourself even if people are telling you that what you're doing is not what they think is great.
I like that, Dominique. Sometimes the path to success is a lonely path. Okay, we're back with another artist series. We've had Dominique Bianco, a wonderful guest, jazz vocalist. You can hear her EP. When does the EP come out?
Comes out on my birthday, November 13th.
November 13th. And we'll be back next week with another artist series in the same place and the same time. Thank you. Bye,
Thank
Dominique.
you.